when we say children, newborn babies, as soon as they are born, they start their developmental, pathways. So each time parents take babies to pediatricians, and then pediatricians check developmental milestones. And these developmental milestones, many pediatrician websites or CDC website, they have these milestone checklist. So these developmental milestones, we call it a cognitive developmental domains or cognitive domains. It has 5 areas. The first one is cognitive, and the second one is a language, and then social, emotion, and moral. So these 5 are pretty much all about the human's functions, human capabilities, and then these 5 makes a human as a human, and it is like a higher rank animals than 4 legs animals. So cognitive, language, social, emotion, and moral, these 5 areas should be reciprocally interdependent, intertwining, make those developmental progress. So I call it's a well-balanced developmental milestones. So there is, cognitively, you just grew this much, and it impacts the language growing, impact social development, emotional development, moral development. So they each other impacting positively each other, and then they grow together. So I used like an engine gear tightness. So very tight, so it's like a 1 gear moves, and every gears move together. This moving is a development. However, 1 gear is a little bit slow down, and then it just subsequently in the other gears just slow down as well. That means developmental weaknesses, right? So it is very important. These all 5, developmental domains. It is well connected, like engine gears, and then they just grow and development all together. If this rhythm is kind of broken or slowed down, and then we could have disabilities, impairment or disabilities. And pretty much most of disabilities we have labels in IDEA have disabilities in these 5 areas. Let's say autism. Autism is pretty much all these 5. It's across developmental categories, domains. It's across domains. They have all those, deficiencies. That's autism. So it's like a cognitive, language, social, emotion, and moral. And moral clumsiness is the same, even though they may not have orthopedic impairment. However, they have a sensory-based moral function deficiencies. And then learning disability pretty much is a cognitive domain. It's like a learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and then somehow some cognitive communication disabilities. Language, autism, and speech, and language disorders, and communication disorders, intellectual disorders, directly language part. And most of children with any kind of disability labels, they have a slow or low level delayed language functions. And then social, autism, and then learning disabilities. So somehow they have nonverbal social communication disorders. Now it's a social communication disorders, intellectual disabilities, and then ADHDs somehow, and then social deficits, and it's a cross-categorical. The most of disabilities may have, and then communication, and then emotion is the same, right? We have emotional disturbance. It could be born nature or just environmental nurture, generated emotional disturbance, and then ADHD and just other high incidence disabilities. And then moral is the same. And even though we have an orthopedic impairment and physical impairment, however, more significantly, I see sensory-based moral disorders. So it's like a dyspraxia, postural disorder, and then, autism, learning disability. Most of disabilities have those, motor clumsiness, physical clumsiness. This mobility is not smart, and their senses are kind of dull. So they have these, kind of disabilities. So it's very tough to have these 5 areas. Again, we have developmental milestones, and we call it developmental disabilities or developmental delays. When we say some children have developmental delays, that means that these 5 areas, cognitive, language, social, emotion, and motor, it's not all of 5 areas. It could be either of any areas or all of 5 areas. Okay, so we say it's a developmental delays, but most of disabilities are pretty much neurodevelopmental disabilities. These neurodevelopmental disabilities is like in a grandmother disability under there. Cognitive developmental disability is a developmental disabilities, and all other disabilities more like a neuromotor disability related disability like a cerebral palsy and spina bifida and all those other areas. And these cognitive developmental disabilities are most school education, school settings. So we could see these children more, pretty much most of not more than 95% of children have these cognitive developmental disabilities, and other about 5%, way less than 10% are the other side of those motor related disabilities. Okay, of course they are motor related, still they have some intellectual disabilities or that, but however mainly it's not cognitive developmental disabilities.